So next up we've got Shilpa. So excited. I've actually known you for ages. I'm trying to think how long I've known you for now. 3 years, I think.
Which is 5 years now.
It's Jamie, who works with me at Offset Warehouse as well. Also knows Shilpa independently. So yeah, very small world. But basically Shilpa's a kind of gem, a fountain of knowledge when it comes to business from a background of tailors in her family, and then launching her own businesses, and now founder, director of Bili, which is super exciting. So I'm really, really pleased to such amazing stuff.
Exciting. So, as turns, I've done so much, and I've just been like around and up and down. A bit like you said, it's a big roller coaster. So I'm going to start with the legacy. I think that's something really present at the moment. We've just had the loss of my grandmother, who is the final tailor in my ancestral legacy, left behind. So it's such a present thing for me, and I've learned a lot of new facts in this time, which are just lovely to share. So I come from the Darji caste, the Indian caste, and in India we have the caste system. And my caste are the tailors. My mum's maiden name is Taylor, like Taylor spelled as in the tailor. So we are all tailors by trade. So my grandparents, and even before that, my great-grandfather on my father's side was a milliner in the time of the British Raj. So he had a millinery factory and was making hats for all the British people that were over there, and I have a huge passion in ethical fashion, so I started always in ethical fashion, and I only came to know this fact much later on, but he actually died from inhaling all the fumes that came from the dyes of dyeing these hats and things, and that's only something I found out from my father years and years later, but it kind of, in a strangely kind of connecting the dots sort of way, it just kind of why I really got pulled anytime I'm seeing these makers that are, suffering, or there's any harmful, treatment in labor, that just made me really, but I've always been that way because they've always done this work. So that was my great-grandfather, and then all of my grandparents were all tailors, every single one of them. So I learned to sew at a very, very early age of like 7 or 8, but there was always thread and sewing machines. Like, sewing machine was like an appliance, a washing machine. Every Darji household has a sewing machine. So we've just grown up seeing sewing machines everywhere. So when it came to like time to learn, and I remember being in a very early sewing class, I did the hem, and I did the hem so quickly and so easily, but it was really genetic. And then when I went up to the teacher, and she was like, "How did you do this hem so well?" I was like, hands. This is what my grandparents did, So it's just been with me the whole time. So I always knew I'd be doing something creative, and then I did all the formal qualifications. So I did textiles. I did textiles at A level. I've got a bachelor of arts degree in fashion and textiles, and that was really a formality for me because I've really self-taught and soaked up information from where I've been. So my main value that I put my skill on is actually everything I've kind of soaked up along the way. Yeah. Uni was great, and uni is where I got my passion for business, because we did an enterprise project, and that's where I kind of learned that, hey, I really love this thing called business, and we did exercises and stuff there, and I really learned that I want to do my own thing. So I graduated in 2005 and went and worked for a high street retailer for 6 months. Which I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it. It was just as fast-paced. It was everything that I didn't believe in, and there was no. What I really love is from kind of your grassroots, from your grassroots to your end project. That's why you guys sound so fantastic, actually. So did that for 6 months, and then actually at the end of that 6 months, I also found out that I was pregnant with my first child. So kind of everything kind of grew that way. So I started, my first label was actually called Shisha, that I had with a friend from uni, and we did Portobello, Camden, Spitalfields, all the markets, and that was me with a big bump and going around with my suitcase and doing all the markets, which was fantastic. And actually then, in that early stage, we were actually upcycling all the way back then. And then she went off, traveled, and then it was, okay, obviously they came. And then it was time to emerge again and start. So then I decided I'm going to launch my label. So 2008 was the official launch at Fashion Week with Shilpa Bilimoria. And it's gone from different facet to facet, kind of, it has gone really organically. So I started doing a lot of bespoke, because I was really passionate about these gowns and stuff, so I've done an array of bespoke items for customers. And then what happened is, having doing the bespoke and the collection, that kind of, I had a few hops, so that went for a while. But then what happened is, there was these young designers that started coming in saying, you make, can you help? So because I was making everything in-house on my own, so then they were like, we need help, you need to make. So from then what happened is transformed into kind of small CMT, kind of a sewing studio that I would call it, because we're not a factory, but we would take on small runs, we would do the pattern cutting, do all the first samples, and then say if you had a run of 10 to 50 pieces, we would handle that. So I had a small CMT. So I'm speeding through this a little bit. There's other things that happened along the way. So we had a small CMT. Now, then it comes that thing that you're talking about, the heart, right? So I was like, it kind of started to become really fast-paced, a little bit cutthroat, and then that's when I was like, okay, this doesn't work for me. This doesn't work. And then on top of that, we were creating clothes for all different brands and things, and it happened that a lot of them had the same ethos and ethics that I had, but not all of them. And then there was people that wanted things like the next day, and it was becoming, and I just thought, no, this is not where I'm heading. I'm not going to create a factory, and if I were to create a factory, I would have to do it on such a scale and such a level where, I can balance everything. And the industry, sadly so, still has all of these pressures that the designers need to succumb to. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a big catch-22. So that was like, okay, this is not working. So I closed down the studio in December. How many months ago was it? And it was a time to breathe. I just thought, okay, this has kind of naturally come to a place where the studio has to close. I've had offers for new studios and nearly secured one today, so let's hope that comes through. But I thought this is time to breathe and really go back to my roots and see what I'd really like to do. And I've gone back to the upcycling, because I have so many materials, probably materials from my grandparents, probably from even before then. But I'm like that magpie. I go into charity shops all the time, like that's where I source my stuff, and then if I go around my aunt's house, I go into her wardrobe and be like, are you wearing this anymore? Are you wearing that anymore? I'll take that curtain, and like my neighbors went like, we're getting rid of all these curtains. I'm like, give them to me. And they said, why do you want that hideous thing? I was like, it's not hideous, it's a gem. And actually when I had sold a few of the collections, some of the best sellers were from curtains. And those curtains were gone, but they were requested so much, so it was so incredible that that worked so well. So I went back to that, and I've just launched a childrenswear line in May called Bili, and it's all made from upcycled, vintage, second-hand textiles. And because of all the waste in the industry, it's using, like, we have little ruffles and really cute things, but we can use all the odds and ends. So designers that have waste, lady, because I'll use all your little bits of scraps and stuff. Literally, like, they need to only be like 5 centimeters wide. Like, we can use up your scraps, and this is the thing that now we have to develop a little bit of a steam engine on this to kind of get in touch with these designers that have these scraps, so we can kind of begin this circular fashion thing going on, that we can all help one another in this way. So this is really, really fresh. So I've started Bili, and it's very, very cute. So I have cards with me, you should go and check it out. But yeah, I've just kind of flown through my as quickly as I could, because I think I'll just ramble for a long, long time. But yeah, that's kind of where and how. My grandparents, I've started legacy and kind of didn't finish that. My grandparents on my mother's, so my mom was born in Kisumu in Kenya. Her parents were born in India, both of them, and actually my grandmother was born in what would have been Pakistan at the time, and moved over during partition. And she was a tailor. Of course, my grandfather was a tailor that moved to Kenya in 1948 and set up a tailoring business in Kisumu. And I have the stationery from his tailoring shop. It's very, very cute. So it's Prabhu and Brothers, sorry. and him and all his brothers set up this tailoring. I've got pictures of him, his studio or his tailoring shop then. And my grandmother then was a full-time mum as well, so she used to sew from home. So her kids used to bundle up all these packages of ladies' wear garments and trundle them back to the workshop where my grandfather was and stuff. And they have all these memories which are incredible. And I've just found out about all this. And then in 1969 they moved to the UK, and that's when they then worked with a kind of cousin brother there in a workshop in Oxford Street actually. And like Oxford Street, Bond Street, close to there, and they were basically doing a lot of tailoring for, which happens to be quite a lot of royalty, I think, which is very interesting also with the millinery from one side and then that following through. So then they worked in that, and then just all along. And from my father's side, they were kind of more your homely tailors, and they were doing the sari blouses, and they were doing a lot of men's tailoring and stuff as well. Both my grandfathers did a lot of really striking suits and things, and they're the kind of guys that they would say, okay, I know your measurements already, and they wouldn't take measurements. These are the stories that I had, that they would just look at you and they would know, okay, one of your shoulders is slightly higher than the other, and I'm going to cut this like this. Incredible stories. So these are all just amazing memories that I have, and memories I'm being told about, which is fantastic. So yeah, any questions? Because I think I'll be led by questions a little bit.
I have like a ton. Does anything else have any?
You say children's wear, so it's boys and girls.
So it's girls at the moment, but I have boys wear, like little boys designs coming up very, very quickly, because a lot of mums have said to me, boys. Because there's not that much array of that, and they've said the feedback has been like, we want the boys too, so the boys are definitely coming. So.
What end of the market do you like the price point? What end of the market?
Upper High Street. Because with the ethics, I've always thought about, look, I want to keep the price ethical as well, and I know a lot of markup happens because of all the markups along the way that need to happen for the stores and things, and I know stores need to survive. Everybody needs to survive, but I always think that if I were to go and walk into a store and there was a stretch point, like what would my maximum budget be? And I kind of look. So at current price points are kind of retailing at around 45, and the highest item is about 75 to 80.
So
and then
do you
lowest
do
is
like collections or one-off pieces?
So
I've got some scraps and so it's kind of lovely. So we use coffee fabric, we use organic cotton and bamboo.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's chat about it. But I'm just interested, like maybe some other people will be interested if it's more like one-off, or do you work as a collection?
So the ranges, because of the nature of the materials that you get, we have silhouettes. So we have silhouettes, and then we have fabric choices for customers, and they can mix and match till their eyes, like whatever that they really want. So we've already had in the really early stage that people have gone, well, I really like the fabric and floral of that dress, but I want it in the romper, and that's how then a new romper becomes born, like that. So it's kind of really customer led, which is really beautiful, because they decide what colors they like and what florals they like, and I kind of have done the first collection, and then they've just kind of started transforming into whatever the customers want.
So what's your sort of turnaround on that, if you're then just putting the designs forward and making them after customers?
So the lead time that the customer can have the item, currently it's between like 5 to 10 working days. But that's because we're at a small stage, right? I envision that when that moves, that we will. But because then I've got the background of doing that CMT and setting up, I have everything that I need in a way to kind of fly with it when the demand hits, basically. So I have in my team, I have 2 seamstresses at the moment who dip in and dip out, as with what things that they're also doing on the side. So yeah, it kind of is really customer led at the moment.
Speaking of customer, I actually don't know how old your children are, but have you let your children pick and design their own outfit? So
my kids the youngest is 2.5 now, just coming up to 2.5, and the older one is 10, going to be 11 in November. And the 11-year-old.
She's a great seller too.
Yeah, so because me and Jamie have met because I also have taught. I do an array of different things. So I'm taking you through one side, but me and Jamie met at Little Hands Design, which is a CIC that teaches sewing and dressmaking classes to kids. And I have worked there alongside what I did for many, many years, and me and Jamie met there. And my daughter, since she's 2, has been on the machine. I remember I took her into one of the classes at about 2, and she was like on the foot pedal. You know, like she would just sat her for like just to sit there, and she was already reaching for the foot pedal. So she really, really is out there with that. She draws all the time, and she's already designed herself a poncho. And she said, "When is my poncho coming, Mum?" I've designed this poncho ages ago, and that print was supposed to be for my poncho. Why are you cutting something out? She really is. And then the little one, she modeled for like the first shoot that we had actually. So when you go to the page, you'll see my kids in there, and my niece also. But she then has the garments, and then she's like, "That's mine." Yeah. So they're very, very involved. It's kind of this in that way of what I had, kind of it is following through in that way. I'm not pushing anything on them, but Akshay has definitely shown a keen eye to sewing.
Can I just ask, when you say upcycled, is it kind of like any fabric or any offcuts? It doesn't have to be, or do you actually quite strict in terms of it has to be?
What I started with, I've started with kind of an aesthetic right now. So right now we're looking at really kind of florals and your chintzy kind of curtains. So at the moment I'm using a lot of that along with like linens and things, but I've got already a stockpile of when I can bring out like the next kind of palette as such, you know, of kind of prints. So there's a lot of stuff to come. And having the CMT, actually what's happened incidentally is a lot of designers have just not cared about what they've left us with, which is, I find it, hideous. Like I've been left with heaps and heaps of bits, and then you'll be surprised that there's quite large offcuts, and they're just like, oh, what do we, and you just think, where is this all going to go? So that really is, I cannot bear to throw, I cannot bear to throw a textile away. Because it can always be used for something.
You pick the ethical values. You don't go to any design. Would you pick like an ethical designer, for example?
That's an interesting question, because I haven't
like throughout your supply chain.
Yeah, so like the offcuts and things that I have at the moment from designers that came to me are not all ethical designers or ethical fabrics and things, but where we're looking at is that the waste that would turn into, otherwise it would go to landfill and become waste. So I think that we can help even designers that don't have an ethical focus or sustainable, and perhaps kind of start to feed it through to them a little bit and see maybe how are they using their text, and why are they sampling so much? Why create all this sampling if it's just going to be rubbish?
How do you reach your customer?
At the moment, it's all word of mouth and online marketing. We're doing the classic car boot sale in King's Cross on the 9th of September, which is going to be our first kind of face-to-face kind of sale with the brand. So at the moment, I had been kind of just getting the campaigns together, really getting our vision, and so that's going to be our first kind of face-to-face. And we're really looking at kind of, like it's about the customers as well. It's where am I going to find the customers that have the same values, because it's going to take a certain kind of customer to want to buy what they're buying. But I think word of mouth is something along all the years of what I've been doing. That's the most powerful marketing that there's ever been. I mean, with the bespoke, I advertised about 3 years ago because I had my team growing, and that was the only time that I advertised. But besides that, I'd always had enough work coming in, enough demand kind of thing. So that was the first time that I'd advertised. So things have been at that kind of scale at the moment. But when we grow, I think we'll look at other avenues.
What do you do when you're saying like customers were coming back wanting a specific print or a specific fabric? What do you do when that happens?
So if they come and say, I want
same
black and white photo or something, and I don't have that.
Oh no, like when you were saying that one print was selling really, really well, and so when people came back to find it, you don't have any left.
Yeah, that's it. that's it. I mean, that's one thing that I really share is the story of where it comes from, and I have nothing. I'm nowhere that I try and kind of paint a picture that you could get more and more all the same. And really, like every probably piece of marketing that I do always says that this is something that there's only a bit of, and it's something that was going to go in the bin otherwise, and you're helping them.
Just to look individual. So
Yeah, absolutely. And the beauty of it being childrenswear is that things can be so small. So if we went for this with and we do, like, I still have the bespoke Shilpa Bilimoria as a lead label, and we still do bespoke women's wear for that, and I'm working on a collection besides that's going to be found like an ode to my grandparents. That's going to be completely a crazy avant-garde thing that's coming up. So we do have women that come to us actually with saris that they've had in their wardrobes and are kind of heirloom pieces, and they can't wear them again because the nature of trend in Indian fashion also changes. So we've done quite a few beautiful gowns for women that then want to upcycle the embroidery and keep that because it's really special. So a lady had saris left over that her husband had gifted her, you know, as they got engaged and things like that. They were the first saris that he bought from her, but she just could not ever wear them again. So we made them into these beautiful gowns that she can wear to, you know, like a black tie or an Indian wedding as well. So, and then that really for the women's wear is just one off because the amount of fabric that things take.
Can you tell us as well the secret to doing so much while you clearly have 2 children as well, and you're like some kind of superwoman who is magicking time out of the thin air? What are the tips, secrets, tricks?
You just make it happen. I think that it's just like, you know what, and something happens. I think that there's something that then instinctively happens when you have children that goes like, well, I have to make this happen because if I don't. And for me also is that the other side of things that I do is I have 2 girls, of course, so I'm doing things, you know, a lot, and I do kind of focus sometimes and I start saying women about things, but because the thing is they need an empowering example. So I think for me that probably is the driving thing, that I wake up every morning thinking that if I don't go and do something, what are they going to do? You know, what do they see? And then maybe my lucky basket is so full.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not all. Everything just works as it needs to, and you have, especially running your own business. You know, your family your family's there with you. Like the kids are, and my partner is, and you know, like it's everywhere. Really, it's you know, you wake up every morning with it, and everybody goes to bed with it. So. Yeah, so the secret though is that I have loads of lists everywhere. I have planning, like pockets of time is really important for me. So like a pocket of 2 hours is like if I really just have 2 hours to do something, is looking at, okay, that 2 hours needs to really work, and I time myself often, which is something I've discovered along the way, is that often I overestimate how much I can do in such like 1 hour. So I've started to time myself, and I found that as I time myself and figure out actually how much I can do in a certain, I've gotten a lot better with, okay, this is actually going to take this much time, and I'm not so good.
Oh wow, so that's a really cool tip actually. And anything that you can share with us, because you have so much experience in setting up and running businesses, anything that we could learn from you?
Yes, because I've dipped into so many different things along the way, and now like really closing that CMT and then starting fresh. It is starting fresh, and anytime I speak to anybody, I come in like a schoolgirl. I say to them, don't talk to me like I've done anything before. I want to know what you're going to tell me, you know, right from the get-go. Talk to me like I'm really stupid and I have no idea. And so this time, this is what I'm doing, and it's amazing to hear all these things. But I think in the beginning, as a startup, I think soak up all the information you can get around you, all of like business networking and things, and then I think really key. And I don't know if this is you know, for all businesses or businesses like me, is that you don't necessarily in the beginning, especially if you're passionate about something and it's an art form, you don't write a business plan straight away. Now, I didn't do that all the way back then, but in hindsight now, I think if I had, And if I learned about funding, if I learned about investment, if I learned about those things and really looked at where do I want to scale my business, maybe I'd be at a different place at this point in time. No regrets or anything, but like now I'm looking at it that way. Having done everything, now I'm going through its business plan, it's looking at my forecasting, it's all those things that I said, I don't know that. I'm a designer, I don't do that, I don't need money, I don't do spreadsheets, I hate spreadsheets. No, you have to love spreadsheets. You have to just learn to love it or get somebody, that can. And another thing is that you can't do it all by yourself. I think that's also another thing. Even though, time is money and everything costs, I think the whole thing, nature and what I speak to everyone about now is like the whole ethics of the industry is also that we have a lot of, we always look for, everybody's looking at how can I do this with minimal expense. Fine, that's great, but I think as soon as there's a shift in that everybody needs to get paid and there's going to be like a circular shift about this kind of stuff. Like everybody does need to live, and this is what I'm doing now. So I've kind of made it a point of going like for Bili and bespoke, with House of Bilimoria moving forward, the plan is like full-on investment and full-on funding to make sure that everybody who touches the business from employment point of view is going to be remunerated for that, and that's the way the business is going to grow. And that's the way that you kind of have to set your bar a little bit. I think that it's scary to set your bar really high, but I think that you need to do that if you think that you're going to have a business that's going to be around 10 years later. The legacy that I'm speaking of, 10, 70 years later, I'm thinking,
Amazing. Any other questions? No. Fantastic.